The spacecraft had already survived the hardest part. A small Soyuz capsule was falling back toward Earth after a failed mission. Its crew, Soviet cosmonauts Vyacheslav Zudov and Valery Rojdestvensky, had launched with a clear objective: reach the Salyut 5 space station and dock successfully in orbit. That objective was already gone. The rendezvous had failed. The mission was over. Now the capsule was descending through darkness toward the Kazakh steppe, carried by parachute, returning its crew home alive. From a distance, it looked like the story was ending. Instead, it was about to begin. In orbit, the danger had seemed obvious. The spacecraft approached its target. Systems were monitored. Maneuvers were attempted. The question was simple and familiar. Would the docking succeed? It did not. The mission collapsed into a recovery operation. There would be no station visit, no extended stay in space, only a return to Earth. For the crew, that return offered certainty. The objective had failed, but survival was not in doubt. The Soyuz spacecraft was designed to bring people home. As the capsule plunged through the atmosphere, surrounded by plasma and fire, the crew moved through procedures they had trained for repeatedly. Reentry was violent, but it worked. The spacecraft survived. The parachute deployed. The capsule descended. And the audience's attention naturally shifts away from danger. Because landing is supposed to mean safety. Then the capsule touched water. Lake Tengiz stretched beneath the descending spacecraft, dark and frozen beneath a winter storm. Instead of striking open land, the descent module crashed through ice and entered a lake surrounded by snow, wind, and darkness. The category of the story changed instantly. A failed space mission became a survival story. The capsule settled into freezing water. The parachute remained detached. Ice surrounded the spacecraft, and a vehicle designed primarily for land recovery had become something else entirely. A stranded vessel, a floating shelter, a trap. The crew could not simply climb out and walk away. Outside the hatch was freezing water. Around the capsule was broken ice. Beyond that was darkness and a snowstorm. The safest place available was the same vehicle that prevented escape. Inside, the descent module still separated the crew from the environment. Outside, the environment was beginning to take control. The first option had disappeared. The mission was gone. Now another vanished. Self-rescue. Recovery teams knew where the capsule had landed. Help existed. But help and access were not the same thing. Across the lake, rescuers confronted conditions that transformed a straightforward recovery into something far more difficult. Snow reduced visibility. Wind complicated movement. Ice created obstacles. Darkness hid distances and hazards. The capsule remained visible. Reaching it was another matter. Inside the spacecraft, survivability depended on systems that had never been intended to support a prolonged emergency in a frozen lake. Heat mattered. Power mattered. Time mattered. The crew had survived space, but survival was becoming a question of endurance. The image is difficult to forget. A spacecraft that had crossed hundreds of miles above Earth was now stranded only a short distance from rescuers who could not immediately reach it. Every element of the situation worked against recovery. The lake resisted approach. The weather resisted visibility. The darkness resisted coordination, and the capsule itself resisted escape. Another option disappeared. The assumption that rescue would happen quickly.
We cannot cross
Hours
the ice
passed.
field yet. The approach is blocked.
The spacecraft remained where it was.
Deploy the inflatable craft
The
immediately.
lake remained frozen. The storm remained active. Inside the capsule, conditions were still survivable. But survivability is not the same thing as safety.
Severely hampered the recovery.
The distinction became increasingly
The ice
important.
remained unstable.
From the outside, rescue efforts continued to encounter physical barriers. Vehicles struggled with terrain and weather. Recovery crews adapted. New approaches were attempted. Yet each effort revealed the same reality. Knowing where the crew were located did not solve the problem. The capsule could be found. The capsule could not easily be reached. The story's pressure came from two directions at once. Inside the spacecraft, resources gradually diminished. Outside the spacecraft, access remained uncertain.
The ice won't hold
The
there.
distance
Reroute
between
to the
those
east.
two realities was
Copy
measured in
that. Moving
time.
the crane now.
The crew could do very little to change their circumstances. That was perhaps the most important shift of all. Spaceflight stories often celebrate control. Pilots solve problems. Engineers respond to failures. Systems are repaired. Procedures are executed. Here, control steadily disappeared. The cosmonauts had already completed the tasks that could save them. Now, survival depended almost entirely on other people. Dependency replaced action. Waiting replaced maneuvering. Endurance replaced decision-making. The Soyuz capsule changed meaning again. At launch, it had been a mission vehicle. After the failed docking, it became an emergency return vehicle. After splashdown, it became an accidental boat. Now, it was something even simpler. A thin shell holding back cold water and winter air.
The ice is shifting.
Nothing about that image resembles the popular imagination of space exploration. No distant planets, no dramatic discoveries. Just two people, sealed inside a confined space, while help struggled to reach them.
Copy that. Proceed slowly with the net.
It is an ancient human fear expressed through modern technology. Eventually, the recovery effort succeeded. Rescuers reached the spacecraft.
Engaging primary
The crew
winch.
were extracted alive.
Lift sequence
The
initiated.
shrinking options stopped shrinking.
Secure the starboard cable.
Heat no longer mattered.
Action on the winch. Slowly.
Power no longer mattered.
Watch the ice near the
Time
hull.
no
All teams,
longer mattered.
report status.
The survival
Secured,
interval
ready for lift.
ended.
Ascend slowly
Looking
to
back,
50 meters.
it is tempting to see the failed docking as the story's central event. After all, that is where the mission went wrong. But the landing tells a different story. The failed rendezvous did not nearly cost the crew their lives.
Higher, slowly
The
now.
frozen
Watch
lake
the cradle.
did.
Keep
The
it
mission
steady,
failure
steady.
created the conditions. The recovery environment
Hurry up,
created
secure the
the
camera.
crisis.
Watch the
That
equipment,
distinction
move it
changed
faster.
how people thought about returning from space. Because reentry is not the final step. Touching Earth is not the final step. A crew is not truly home when the capsule lands. A crew is home when recovery is complete. The image that remains is not the spacecraft approaching a space station. It is a Soyuz capsule sitting in a frozen lake during a snowstorm, isolated by ice, darkness, and water after surviving the journey from orbit. At the beginning of the story, the capsule was the machine carrying the crew through danger. By the end, it was the barrier keeping danger out. And that is the contradiction at the heart of Soyuz 23. They survived space before they survived Earth.